They're obligated, but they say okay,
And I'm glad you're here. Were you told I
they're
wasn't
paying
going to be here?
$1,000.
We'll now call this
Yeah, my
meeting
name
to
was up there
order.
when I walked in, so.
I must have got my dates goofed up, so.
Our first order of business is to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. Commissioners, is there a motion to adopt the final agenda?
I move to adopt the final agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. The motion does carry. Our next order of business is to adopt the minutes from our March 1st, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. Commissioners, is there a motion to adopt those minutes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll second.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. The motion does carry. We have two items for discussion and action on our agenda tonight. The first is item 3.1, election of chair and vice chair for 2022 Planning Commission year, running from April 1st of this year to March 31st of 2023. Before we move into the nominations, Community and Development Director Marty Dole has a brief overview of the process we will follow. Marty?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Yes, just because this isn't something that we do very often, I just wanted to kind of run through the process that I would recommend following tonight for the nominations and election of chair and vice chair. Chair Iverson, we would ask you to call for nominations as soon as you open this item. Any voting member of the Planning Commission may nominate a chair with a motion, and a second would be required on that motion in order for that individual to be brought up to a vote for chair. If there are motions and seconds for multiple individuals, each motion will need to be brought, and I would recommend bringing it to a roll call vote at that point in time if there are multiple nominations. I would suggest to the Planning Commission or recommend that if there are multiple nominations, if during the roll call vote you would please only vote aye for one of the two individuals, just to avoid having a majority vote on more than one candidate, which would just necessitate us going through the process again. The candidate must receive a majority vote, at least 4 voting members, and if no candidate receives a majority vote, those motions would obviously fail, and new motions and seconds would be needed, and then we'd repeat that process for vice chair. So with that, Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Marty. Commissioners, can I have a nomination for chair? And I will take the privilege of nominating myself for chair for a second term. Is there a second?
I'll second that
Thank you.
nomination.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there any other nominations for chair?
I'd nominate Laura Moore for chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I will close the nominations, and we will have a vote on this, and we will go through, and like Marty had stated, a aye for either one of the two. So Commissioner Vansky.
Chair, I would recommend just noting which nomination you're calling for the vote first, and then opening that up to roll call. That will either pass or fail, and then open up the second motion.
Okay.
For,
We'll go for the first nominee first, Iverson. Ivansky?
Nay?
Kuhn?
Nay.
Moore?
Nay.
Pedersen?
Aye.
Schwarting?
Aye.
Murray?
Nay.
Ream?
Commissioner Ream is not a voting member this evening. We have a full
Okay.
contingent.
Okay, superb. And then for Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
And Kuhn.
Aye.
And Pedersen and Murray.
Aye.
And I will vote for myself. So the numbers are 3 and 3.
Forgot Laura.
Did you have Laura vote?
Yeah,
Laura didn't
yeah,
vote.
Laura
yeah.
needed to have an opportunity to
Chair-
vote for herself.
Yeah, I
Excuse
would not
me.
be voting for myself.
Excellent, excellent. Sorry about that.
Chair Iverson, I was counting votes here. So with the first motion, we had 4 nays, 2 ayes, and I don't believe you voted for yourself yet. So, you indicated that as an aye. And now I don't know that we did a full roll call for the second motion. So if you could do a full roll call for the second motion, just so we can determine the number, if you can get everybody through. So
We'll
just to
do,
ensure we have the correct vote.
Commissioner Moore determines if she wants the chair position or not.
I think so.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you vote for yourself, you got it. If you vote for Chair Iverson, he gets it.
Agreed.
Actually, it's the only one left.
So if Commissioner Moore is voting nay, we do not have a majority vote on either motion or second. Both motions and seconds will fail, and we will need a new motion and second. So,
We would have 4 people, which would be a majority, right? Because it would be Moore, Iverson, Pedersen, Schwarting. That would be 4. That's a majority.
the roll call, Commissioner Pedersen, chair, members of the commission, the roll call was voted, I believe Commissioner Moore, or did you not have an opportunity to vote on the first roll call? I believe you voted nay on the first roll call. So that was a nay vote, so that would fail that motion. If you aye or nay, this one will determine whether or not we have a successful motion and need to re-motion in second or not. So,
Can I ask process for a second?
yes.
If I would have said nay immediately after I was nominated, would that have changed the process?
That likely would have if you would have not accepted that nomination, correct? So if you would like to not accept your nomination,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. I
All right.
appreciate it. Thank you.
So, process question. Now, the original motion for Chair Iverson has failed. We will need a new motion and a second and another roll call vote for Chair.
Agree. I'll make a motion to nominate Chair Iverson for a new term of chair in the next commission.
thank you. Do
Second
we have
that
a
motion.
second?
I'll second that motion.
Very good. So we will go through Commissioner Evansky for Iverson,
Aye.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Nay.
Commissioner Moore,
Nay.
Commissioner Pedersen,
Aye.
Commissioner Schwarting,
Aye.
Commissioner Murray,
Nay.
Chair Iverson, yes. So we have 4 yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Something less than unanimous. Okay, very good. So we will now have a motion for vice chair. Do I have a nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Pedersen.
Very good,
I second that motion.
Thank you.
very good. Is there any other nominations for vice chair?
Make a motion to nominate myself for vice chair.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Peterson. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing no other nominations, I will close the nominations. And so we have a vote for Chair, or for Commissioner Evansky and Commissioner Pedersen. And we will start with Commissioner Evansky. And,
So we're roll call voting? For,
yeah, roll call voting, yep.
Right, I'll vote aye for Commissioner Evansky.
Commissioner Kuhn,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Pedersen,
Aye.
Commissioner Swarding,
Nay.
Commissioner Murray,
Aye.
Chair Iverson. I will vote yes. So we have six ayes and 1 nay.
Chair Iverson, because we do have a majority vote and Commissioner Pedersen himself did vote aye on that, I could recommend that the motion for Commissioner Pedersen that was made by Commissioner Moore be rescinded, and if Commissioner Swarding agrees to rescinding that second, then we can move forward just with that majority vote.
Sure. Yes.
It was actually me, and I'll rescind.
Okay. Commissioner Murray, excuse me.
We stumbled through that.
You guys just want a variance, right?
You get to get through it all,
I think last year it was worse.
just for the fun of it.
Congratulations to the two chair and vice chair. The second item on our agenda tonight is a variance request, and it's a request for variance from the principal use front yard setback requirement for 5651 Zumbra Drive. This does include a public hearing. Before opening the public hearing, I'll now turn it over to planner Isaac Peterson for staff presentation. Isaac?
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. As the chair mentioned, tonight for your review and consideration is a variance request for 5651 Zumbra Drive. The request is for a reduced front yard setback in the zoned R1 district for the construction of a new home. The applicants on this request are Alex and Tina Hoppy. They join us here this evening along with their contractor. They'll be able to speak shortly after the staff presentation and provide some more insight. Just as a little background on the nature of the request and the property, the subject property is in the zoned R1 low-density residential zoning district, along with within the shoreland overlay district. The Hoppies are proposing to construct a new house on their property and do a tear down of the existing house. And based on their proposal, it would be encroaching within the required 30-foot front yard setback by up to 10 feet. So as the commission is aware, the Victoria Zoning Code establishes various setback requirements that residential properties are subject to, one being the front yard setback, or how far you have to be from the front property line of a property to the nearest structure or principal use. The property owners are requesting this variance for a number of reasons to demonstrate that there's some rationale behind the request. One being that the property itself is a unique pie-shaped or hook-shaped lot that has some diverse topography. And they're wishing to achieve some separation and distance from neighboring properties to the south, along with the presence of some overhead power lines that are located along the southern portion of the property that requires a little bit of separation that kind of consumes some of the buildable area on the lot, along with just due to the restricted nature of the unique layout of the property that it's challenging to construct a reasonably sized home on the property. So in front of you here is a lot survey of the existing house on the site. You can kind of see how funky the lot is shaped. And as noted in the staff background packet, the existing house itself is encroaching within the 30-foot front yard setback. Staff doesn't have the initial building permit from when the house was constructed, which is most likely because it was built some time ago. Just for some context, Zumbra, the neighborhood around Zumbra in this area was platted in 1959, late 50s, early 60s is when construction of homes began. And at that time, the city didn't have, well, first off, the property wasn't within the city of Victoria. And secondly, the city didn't have active setback zoning standards at that time. So it's encroaching by about 6 feet currently. So the Hoppies are proposing to tear down that existing footprint of the house and construct something new. Because they are proposing to construct somewhat in line with the existing house footprint, it would encroach by a bit more than what the existing house is, but in general, in staff's assessment, it's in line with what's in the ground. In front of you here along this black dotted line denotes where that 30-foot setback from the front yard would be. Just to kind of jump back on where our front, rear, and side yards are, because of the hook-shaped nature of the lot, there'd be 2 front yards along Zumbra here, and there'd actually be 2 side yards, which require a 10-foot setback along properties to the south. There is no rear yard per se on the lot because every property line abuts the street. So here in the red, if I can jump back, would be the requested 20-foot front yard setback. As the commission is aware, Victoria Zoning Code guides the commission's review criteria for reviewing variance requests. The code notes that variances will be granted if the request meets the following. 1, that a property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the code. 2, the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the landowner or previous landowners. And 3, the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality, and economic considerations alone do not constitute the practical difficulties. The board may impose conditions in granting variances. A condition of variance approval must be directly related to and must bear rough proportionality to the impact created by the variance. And additionally, the Board of Adjustments Appeals will not recommend and council will not grant a variance unless the commission as a whole finds the following facts. That strict enforcement or interpretation of the code would result in practical difficulty or an undue hardship inconsistent with the intent of the code, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applicable to the property, use, or facilities that do not generally apply to other properties in the same district. And 3, granting a variance will not adversely affect the public health, welfare, and safety and will not be detrimental or injurious to the property or improvements to the neighborhood, and granting the variance will not allow a use which otherwise is not permitted in the zoning district in question. So it's the commission's charge to determine if the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property, and that there's exceptional or extraordinary conditions applicable to the property that necessitate the variance. In staff's review of this request, and as the commission has interacted with past requests similar in nature to this, unique lot shapes or funky shaped lots and topography, along with the infrastructure that was noted on the site, are rationales that can be accepted in variance requests. that aren't necessarily created by the property owner or previous property owners. Staff would recommend that you consider whether the lot's unique shape is limiting the property owner's ability to reconstruct a new house on the property and kind of improve the condition of the property itself. In general, staff does recommend approval of the variance with any consideration to any public input brought to you tonight that the commission should consider. Again, the Hoppies are here and have indicated that they may wish to speak to you and answer any questions that you have. So we'd recommend doing the applicant testimonial and then opening it up for a public hearing, which is required. That's all I have for now, and I can stand for any questions that you got.
Very good, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Would the Hoppies like to speak on the topic?
Yeah, would love to have the opportunity to speak.
And your builder also?
Yeah, I think I'll just start, and then if you have any questions, we have our builder, my wife Tina, and then also some of our neighbors along with us this evening.
Yeah, we'll just keep it real open, just kind of a back and forth, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you, committee, for the opportunity to join you here tonight. My wife Tina and I moved to the city of Victoria 5 years ago, and we have absolutely fallen in love with the city, the community, and our neighborhood. Just 6 weeks ago, Tina and I welcomed a brand new baby girl to our family, and we plan on having more kids. Both Tina and I work from home, so we are quickly outgrowing the house that we live in today. And approval of this variance would allow us to build a new home that meets those evolving needs. As Isaac had alluded, due to the unique pie-shaped nature of our lot, the majority of that buildable surface area is on the southeast side of our lot, and there are two significant challenges that we face building on the southeast side of our lot. The first is the power lines that run on the southeast side of our lot. I think there are a couple of pictures towards the back end of the presentation, and that pointing out right there. Thank you. And we're required to stay at least 10 feet away from those power lines. So a significant portion of that buildable area we aren't able to build on due to those power lines. The second challenge is the two neighbors that are the closest proximity to our house are both reside on the southeast side of our lot, the Haroldsons and the Bigelkis. And they are both very supportive of our request and would much prefer that we do not build right over the top of their homes. The Haroldsons provided a formal written letter as a part of our package. Tina and I have sent 2 emails to all neighbors within 150 feet of our house, offering up time if they had any questions or concerns. Just this weekend, we made our rounds to all those neighbors within 150 feet of our property, and everyone that we came across was willing to sign a petition in support of this variance request, including the Bigelkis, who are on that southeast side. In addition to that, the Dolans are here in support, just one of the many neighbors who are in support of our variance request. So really appreciate everyone's time. Our builder, my wife, our neighbors are here just in case you have any questions. Appreciate everything that you do on the committee to make this community so wonderful. Tina and I would love to raise our family here. We frankly would love to spend the rest of our lives here, and with approval of this subject request, it would help us do just that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, I'll now open the floor for the commissioners to discuss.
The public hearing?
You gotta have a public hearing.
Oh, whoa.
You gotta open a public hearing.
Okay. I will now open a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to comment on this? Hearing none, I will now open the floor for the planning commissioners to
You need a
discuss.
motion you need a motion to close the public.
We will, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion does carry. I will now open the floor for planning commission to discuss the issue. Is there any thoughts, any questions, concerns?
Just wanted to clarify, so the existing structure, if we could bring back up the highlighted yellow with the new proposed structure. So if I'm looking at the red line, that's where we're trying to request, correct, Isaac?
That is accurate,
And then
Commissioner
the
Vansky.
black line below that is what would be the 30-foot setback
Correct.
required on the basis of this lot, correct?
Yes.
So the existing home already has a significant square footage that's already beyond the 20-foot setback, 30-foot setback, right?
Yeah. Commissioner Vansky, Chair, members of the commission, the existing house does exist as, what's referred to as a legal nonconformity, excuse me, being that it appears to have been there and was established at a time prior to when a code was in place. So it does exist there as a nonconformity.
Right, and then I just want to confirm maybe my observation that roughly the square footage of the existing home that's sitting beyond the setback appears almost to be completely offset by what is going to be the new proposed square footage, with maybe the exception of that small triangle that is going to be where the garage comes over the 30-foot setback, that little triangle that's to the southwest of the preliminary design, and then maybe perhaps some of the deck.
Yeah, Commissioner Vansky, Chair, members of the commission, in looking at the preliminary plan, and I know the Hoppies are continuing to develop what that house is going to look like, but wanted to kind of address the setback issue before getting too far into the weeds of developing those plans. I think the goal is to keep it in line or similar to what the existing encroachment is of the current house.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think it's a reasonable variance request, and I would support granting it.
Do we know what the hardcover calc is on this yet?
Yeah, Commissioner Kuhn, Chair, members of the commission, we have an estimate of what that hardcover count is. Staff is continuing to work with the applicant to kind of drill down what that number is. The maximum is 25% of the total lot area. In speaking with the Hoppies, I think we anticipate that it will be below that hardcover count. As it's currently shown in this proposal, it is far below 25% of the total lot area.
Any other questions on the project?
I do have a quick question. The storage shed, I'm assuming that was built previously and that will be removed because that's going to be your front yard going forward. Is that correct, or does that stay?
Yeah, if possible, we would love to keep that storage shed, but whatever needs to happen.
Yeah,
Could you go up to the mic?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. We would love to keep that storage shed if at all possible, but whatever we decide, that we can take care of it.
I just am trying to recall, I know we've talked about this topic in the past, accessory storage sheds, and so I can you refresh our memory on the location of where that's supposed to be?
Yeah, sure. Commissioner Moore, Chair, members of the commission. It's funny, me and Alex talked about this last week. So typically, or currently with our current code, storage structures, accessory structures are permitted within the rear yard of a property. Kind of a funky situation here too, because there isn't a rear yard per se again. So kind of looking at what's that existing structure is and, what the potential is to relocate it or permit a different one if it was removed. As it currently stands, it may exist there, much like the current house can exist there if it's a non-conformity. If it were to be relocated and we were to permit a new shed, we would have to ensure that it's placed either within the side yard or rear yard of the property.
So essentially it's grandfathered.
Correct, yep.
Okay. And then I just want to confirm, I think I know the answer to this, but are the lines that are like that, is that the trees? Does that represent the trees? Yes? Okay. Those are my only questions.
Pretty good.
If I may. One thing I failed to mention was there's pine trees that are actually on that cul-de-sac that cover the current storage. So it isn't just blatantly out in the open.
Any other questions, any concerns at all? The short storage shed is certainly an issue that in terms of overall appearance, is that, it's a judgment call as to whether it flows in the neighborhood, if it looks good in the neighborhood. And I think that's a consideration, that you want to be friendly to your neighbors and want to have everyone on board on that at the same time. Anything else on this? Hearing none, I will now call for a motion.
I move that we grant the setback variance request as outlined, 20 feet for front yard and 10 for the side yard for this property at 5651 Zumbra Drive, as presented and discussed.
Very good. Thank you very much. Is there a second to that?
I'd second it. You can have it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion does carry. The variance has been granted. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. Real good. Good.
I think they did a lot of homework, which helped me. Can I say that or
Well,
not?
they presented it well and had a lot of facts.
Presented it well. Had the neighbors, went through the neighbors, had testimonials in the packet. I'm like, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your build.
Yeah, that's a unique shaped lot, and there's a lot of those in that part of the.
I think the question is, where do you live when your house is torn down? But that's another topic.
The storage shed.
The storage.
Well, it's good to
City
see
Hall.
that they're reinvesting in Victoria and want to stay committed to our community, and this is
Agreed.
very non-controversial as far as the encroachment of.
Yeah, it's a very long term, as they had stated, tonight, and then of course in the packet, it's a very long term commitment for them. So that's neat to see. Miscellaneous items. I'd like to thank everyone for saying whatever is on their mind, whatever they're thinking. At the previous joint meeting with City Council, there were everyone stated what they thought about the projected project that was being presented, and I think that's what we're here for, is to if we agree, fine. If we disagree, equally is fine. So thank you very much. Staff, you probably have a little bit to say, Mr. Marty.
Yes, Chair, Commissioners, per the email I sent you earlier today, I will be leaving the city of Victoria. I have loved my time here. I've loved the people that I work with. Great working with this commission. Both my wife and I are originally from North Dakota, and while we've been in the Twin Cities now for close to 20 years, an opportunity has arisen that's going to allow us to make a move back closer to family and get the kids closer to both grandparents. Both my wife and I are fortunate enough to have both of our sets of parents around still, so it's a difficult decision. This is by far the hardest job I've ever left because it's really just more so focused on the fact that we'll have an opportunity to get back closer to home. So I will be with the city through the end of the month, so you'll have me for one more meeting. I'll be at the next one. But again, I appreciate all of your support and all the work that you do for Victoria.
Well, we're going to miss you,
Thank you.
quite frankly, and in a very big way. We'll discuss more of that. Commissioners, any miscellaneous items from anyone?
I can review the city council meeting from March 14th.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but do I cover the consent agenda items, or I just go to the regular agenda? What's the preference?
I think there was some areas in the early part of the agenda that bears discussing.
Sure. All right, well, let's see. Staff recommended that the council approve the, hold on one sec. They appointed the two applicants for the Park and Rec Committee for a 3-year term, and also 2 applicants to the Senior Advisory Committee for a 3-year term. So both of those recommendations were approved. Let's see. The city council approved establishing a new precinct and polling area. This would be further south in Victoria, closer to the area that's getting annexed through Laketown Township. And that location, I know that that's the area that it would be governing, if you will. Where that location is, I don't recall.
Yeah, Commissioner Moore, with that new precinct, knowing that there will likely be very few residents in this upcoming election, they are actually planning to have the voting place in I believe it's the same location as Precinct 4. As people actually begin to move in, as those houses get built down there, they'll have to identify a actual voting location for future elections. But for this election, anyone who does reside in that new precinct, I believe it's Precinct 4, will have the voting for that Precinct 5 as well.
Thank you. Let's see. I mean, there's some items in here that's just light. I'm not going to touch on. Authorized sale of excess city property. The action was that the city declared the property to be listed for sale through a public auction site, govdeals.com. So that must be in the works. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much consent agenda items. Everything else is fairly standard, city council itinerary. The regular agenda is where there's a little bit more, I think, interest. So the city council, they authorized a construction bid process for the fire station construction project. Plans have changed over a period of time to have a bigger build out, which means a bigger price, and so they had it previously bid out, it was a year ago or so, and obviously with construction prices increasing, it's more expensive, and so it's going to be a process, but this process is to get multiple bids. So that's city council's job of reviewing those costs and kind of where they fall, but multiple bids will be received for that. A preliminary development agreement with Monarch Development Partners was approved. So basically what that means is this preliminary developer pays $5,000 for legal and city analysis. The site that they are proposing for this preliminary development is where the car garage is, kitty corner to
Winchester Rye,
I'm sorry?
Winchester Rye, the barrel.
It's
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's all right there. It's all kind of, so it's a multifamily project where there would be covered parking. Today there's 46 parking, but the only way that it, from this developer's perspective, the only way it works is with structured parking, which would become conveyed to the city. Part of this developer's process is going to be providing details as to why he believes that he needs TIF. So it'll be an interesting conversation. You know, it's not just for that project to work. It's going to need more parking. That's an area that's already tight on parking, and so I think it'll be an interesting conversation. We'll hear more about it.
Commissioners, we're anticipating that a concept sketch plat will be coming before the commission and council in May, most likely.
Okay.
So that'll be the opportunity to start reviewing that.
Right. How many units was that?
They were estimating as part of that preliminary development agreement between 60 and 80.
So clearly with 60 to 80 units, with 46 parking stalls there today, it has to have structured parking. So that's that. The golf cart conversation, review of Victoria Municipal Code Chapter 24, traffic and vehicles, use of golf carts, ATVs, snowmobiles on designated city streets. The city council decided to remove the sunset clause and in turn decided to renew and review annually on that issue. So they felt like numbers were same. They were pretty flat from prior years, and so you know, it's just legal now. Basically, people were doing it previously, but it really wasn't changing any safety issues. I mean, it was more or less status quo, but the good news is the city is reviewing it and keeping a close eye on it and reviewing it annually. So that's what I know.
Okay, I have the recap from the next meeting on March 28th, if you want to continue with city council highlights. And I will keep it to the highlights. There was a check presentation to the fire department from Minnesota Valley Electric. If you're on MVEC and you do Operation round up your bill, they then donate to different charities. And the fire department got an award, and they're using it to buy a special fire extinguisher for electric vehicles. Obviously, electric fires are very different than gas fires. So that was good to see. If you don't participate in that, you give it some thought. It's pretty painless. Proclamation for April is National Volunteer Month. There's some consent on the consent agenda. There's trail gaps, and there was a big meeting on trail gaps, a workshop prior to the meeting. So I think they're still really working on a lot of that. But I will say that they're having a relook at the Bavaria section. So apparently they're having an opportunity to relook at that. There was a public hearing. There was a noise permit. A daughter graduating in the Kelzer Pond area, and it was granted to a noise permit till midnight, which I thought was a little late, but then I go to bed early. I thought you could do 10:30 or 11. Yeah.
We'll all be there.
It's only old people like me. Thanks. Then the tennis courts at the Lions Park, they had budgeted around $80,000 to resurface them. Apparently they're in bad shape. But one of the reasons they're in bad shape is there was really no drain tiles or good substructure to the tennis courts. So what the end result is $124,000 for one tennis court put in properly, recognizing that we need a valid tennis court, but people aren't playing as much tennis, so one good one better than two that will have problems later. The budget overrun they felt could be made up from savings off of pickleball, the pickleball project that they thought was going to come in under budget. What else? There were a bunch of things relative to Carver County transportation, and they were really more just authorization for the mayor to sign letters saying that the city of Victoria supports them. There's a variety of things relative to the whole Arboretum transportation plan.
Commissioner Schwarting, if I may interject, we are intending to have City Engineer Kara Guerin at the next meeting to give an overview of some of those projects, transportation issues at the next meeting. So.
And there was also then they're authorizing Horn Engineering for about $108,000 to work on plat work relative to the Krause Anderson and the Downtown West project. And it sounded like there's a May deadline for Krause Anderson to maybe decide or conclude what they're doing. Does that seem right?
Yes, Commissioner Schwarting, Chair, members of the Commission, that is the date on the preliminary development agreement that the council authorized with Krause Anderson last October. So that is the date there. In fact, it's a little bit earlier. They're shooting to have their preliminary plat submittals in to start through that review process, hopefully by the end of April.
And those are the highlights.
Excellent. There was an awful lot of business for the Park and Rec, and I've attended many of the Park and Rec meetings, and the amount of interaction between all of us is pretty amazing. And you know, we're all kind of working in the same city, so to speak, where we're all involved in a lot of the same things. So that was the Bavaria East or that trail. That's a lot of work went into that, and I'm sure a lot of work continues on that also. Eric, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Eric Ream. As mentioned when I was here, I'm very new to the city, moved here in September, just off Rolling Acres. Love it out here. My experience and why I was interested, first of all, when I lived in Minneapolis for about 20 years, I was on both of my neighborhood associations when I was there. Worked for the Minneapolis Park Board for about a decade, a little bit longer. And I've worked with planning commissions in the past with the type of work I do now, which is development of renewable projects. And so primarily with municipalities and higher ed. So it was a jump in when I saw this opportunity with Nextdoor, something that I never used before, but trying to get to know my community, and already I'm just waiting for spring to get out and enjoy the trails and everything that I'm finding out here. So thank you for welcoming me to the commission, and I'm looking forward to working with you all in the years ahead.
Awesome.
Real good. Welcome aboard, Eric.
Thank you.
Good. Glad that you're here. Is there any other?
So, and maybe this is the project you were talking about with the parking structure, but you know, since I've been on the planning commission, every so many months the parking issue comes up. The property that now is for sale behind Floyd's and stuff, is that the property that's being?
No, it's the
It's the garage.
Gannon.
the
Thank
Gannon
you.
garage.
Gannon
Gannon
building.
It's Gannon's garage.
It's the Gannon property.
Oh, okay.
And behind the Victoria House.
Car
And
collection there.
So my question is, since we're always talking about parking, does the city have any thoughts relative to that property? Is certainly contiguous.
Yeah, Commissioner Schwarting, Chair, members of the commission, I think just generally that any development or redevelopment project in this core downtown area, city staff is emphasizing the need for additional parking and the openness to discuss potential partnership opportunities to try to figure out ways to add additional public parking as part of any development that takes place. Obviously, there's a pretty large area with that property that's been marketed, and staff's had several conversations with potential developers of that property and have expressed that point to them that if you do end up purchasing this, that we'll want to talk about how and if we can incorporate some parking. So we have not gotten any word yet about whether or not that has been contracted or sold, at least from a specific developer to indicate that to us. But we did speak to multiple folks from the time that went on the market. So.
And the downtown area is an agenda item that is coming back up, within months?
Chair, downtown parking. The council had tabled that later last year to revisit again. I imagine they will revisit it during their all-day work session again this spring to determine if it's something they want to.
If all the spaces get reduced to accommodate golf carts, the number of parking spaces would grow dramatically.
You might be able to double or triple, right? Yeah.
But then we have to allow golf carts downtown, which currently we don't.
We'll have to build a golf cart tunnel.
Great.
Well, the solution in Europe is the two-passenger microcars where they can fit, literally 4 vehicles in a parking stall. And, while it seems a little strange, there is some solution in that at the same time too. So, anything else? Anything else at all? If not, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Excellent. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.